Amy Discourse. If you're a Sonic fan, you know it well. She's either a grating Sonic-obsessed stalker or a bland, sanitized version of her former self. But what if I told you there was a third Amy? One faithful to the very essence of her character, and, at the same time, brutally deconstructing it. One who is broken down physically and mentally, and still manages to be awesome. One whose love for Sonic is never directly mentioned, but still subtly obvious, while also being only a small fraction of her character. This is the tragically underrated story of Metal Virus Amy Rose. At the end of the IDW Comics' first arc, Knuckles stepped down as leader of Sonic Force's resistance, leaving Amy, canonically its sub-commander even in that game, in charge. There's a quick gag of her first action as leader being footing Team Chaotix's bill. Cute, but if only she knew that'd be the least of her struggles. The first of which, accusations of being a Sally ripoff. Wait, what? Okay, I'm gonna pull back the curtain a bit because I can't cover Metal Virus Amy without addressing these allegations. Princess Sally Acorn was Sonic's main female companion and love interest from the American Saturday morning cartoon, and later the Archie comics that adapted it. She was also the leader of the Freedom Fighters, a resistance group against that world's Dr. Robotnik. So, the moment Amy took over the resistance, there were bound to be comparisons, especially since Ian Flynn had just come off writing for Archie, and stated he would have done a Metal Virus arc there if that comic hadn't been cancelled. But being girls who are in love with Sonic doesn't automatically make Sally and Amy the same character. Shocking, I know. Now I will admit, as I didn't grow up with SASAM or the Archie comics, I don't have much experience with Sally as a character, but I know someone who does, Ian Flynn himself. And on this episode of his Bumblecast podcast, at this timestamp, he answered a fan question as to how Sally would have handled the Metal Virus. And at this timestamp in this Bumblecast, he addresses the allegations that IDW wrote Amy like Sally. I'll have links in the description because I'd rather you hear his own words than me taking them out of context. But his answers prove my point here. If Sally had been in Amy's shoes during the Metal Virus arc, she would have handled things very differently, and it would have resulted in a very different kind of story. Put another way, the arc Amy goes through in Metal Virus, the one that I will be spending the rest of this video dissecting, could not have happened to any character other than Amy. Sally is a natural-born leader and tactician. Amy, meanwhile, is a scrappy frontline adventurer who had a job she didn't want dumped on her and tried to make the best of that situation. To start, once she takes over the Resistance, she immediately rebrands it the Restoration. It is no longer an armed resistance group against a Robotnik regime in power. Amy's intent is to make it a peacetime humanitarian aid organization. Not fighting a war, but helping civilians heal from one. This doesn't mean she won't take the fight to the bad guys when she needs to, she is Amy with her massive hammer after all, but that's more of a side hustle now. And that's the problem. And it's also why this is such a fascinating arc for her. Amy is a girl defined by love for the world. Her faith in humanity made Shadow cry. On paper, this is her dream job. People sometimes complain about her quest in Frontiers to share her love with the world. What does that even mean? Well, this. Dream job on paper, huh? Fitting choice of words, since even in the arc's early stages, we see Amy's expectations met with cold, hard paperwork. She never wanted bureaucracy, she's an adventurer at heart. Part of why she used to chase Sonic is danger follows him, and she likes being a part of that. So when Sonic, at the end of the arc's official second issue, offers to take her on a working vacation to investigate an abandoned, Eggman base, she literally jumps at the chance. And look how much happier she is in this panel. Sometimes your dream job in theory doesn't match what really brings you joy. Which, in this case, is sharing quips with Sonic about Eggman's ego. But this scene quickly takes a turn for the serious when Sonic and Amy get to reminiscing. Ah, Forces, the game of so much wasted potential. I mean, these kids were literally on the front lines of a planetary war. You'd think they'd have some lingering trauma. Now, if only an actually competent writer explored that— oh. This comic straight up confirms Amy Rose saw death in that war for 6 months without Sonic around. Obviously they can't get too into it in a kid's comic, but I applaud Ian Flynn for at least acknowledging it without getting too far off demographic. A sign of things to come. Long story short, Eggman, who at this point Sonic and Amy think is an amnesiac good guy, it's complicated, sicks his minions on them as guinea pigs for his latest invention, the Metal Virus. Nanomachines that turn living tissue into liquid metal under Eggman's command. No known cure. Spread by touch. And Sonic's fighting style kind of relies on him touching things. That sounds bad. So whoops, he's patient zero. Amy only avoids infection because she has a reach weapon. If she hadn't, this arc would have gone a whole lot differently. So, just try to picture things from her perspective for a moment. You just barely beat 2 invincible foes. Your best friend, who you also happen to have a crush on, then tells you whatever infected them is contagious, is spreading through him fast, he likely has seconds of free will remaining, and he asks if you have any ideas. Yeah, no pressure or anything. We don't actually see what she told him, but whatever it was, it involved getting to Tails. And that's the last we see of Amy for a few issues, as focus shifts to the start of the Outbreak, Team Chaotix, and Cream. Oh, did I mention, wholesome small child Cream the Rabbit debuted in this arc. She's the Tails to Amy's Sonic, and she's about to be put through the worst trauma of her life, which at this point includes her mother being kidnapped in space and the Black Arms invasion. So, yeah. The next time we see Amy in issue 20, it's my favourite scene in IDW. Seriously, this one says so much with so little. In the lead-up, we see that Amy's Restoration HQ is now a fully-fledged refugee camp. Sonic enters the HQ, careful not to touch anyone because that would, you know, cause a domino effect that would infect the entire base. Remember this for later. Turns out Amy just called him to ask if he was okay. Ah, but look at their faces here. The half-lidded eyes, forced smiles. Sonic the freaking Hedgehog forcing a smile is bad enough, but known beacon of sunshine, Amy Rose too? He says he could use a 3-week nap, and I think he's only half joking, while she straight up admits she can't take much more. Enter much more. Sirens wailing, Amy frantically answers a distress call. She rushes to the monitor, doing her best to guide another team in to support without completely breaking down. She fails, as the team she called doesn't respond. The comic can't say it out loud, but they are assuredly either infected or dead. Amy Rose looks on the verge of an actual panic attack, and Sonic can only watch, unable to comfort her, as that would infect her too. Without words, he just leaves. Here's why this might be Amy's best scene in any Sonic media. It takes the essence of her character, her boundless love and desire to help everyone, and stretches that to the breaking points. This is how you give Amy a character flaw that isn't too obsessed with Sonic to function. This is how Amy's dream job turned into her nightmare. She's finally in a position to help everyone in the entire world. And the flip side is that every single person she can't save is her fault. Did I mention the arc is only halfway done? How could things possibly get any worse? Oh. We flash back, Amy now has eye bags and is literally going insane. Thankfully, wholesome cream moment to the rescue! I'm sure this isn't a harbinger of anything bad. An infectee got in, and Amy instantly pushes back her fatigue and goes full war mode. She dives into the horde of zombies to get Cream out, and... if Amy Rose isn't this badass in the 4th movie, I riot. Cream just lost her mother, but at least we still have Vec-O! And Tails' cure research broke. Later, Sonic breaks his cure research. Things are, well, bleak. And it's Amy's job to keep hope alive. No pressure or anything! Actually, now's a good time to rebut a common complaint I hear about Metal Virus Amy. That her being depressed is out of character because she's supposed to be the hopeful, peppy optimist of Sonic's group, and the one who always believes in him. There are 2 issues I have with this argument. One, it acts like a character known for being happy isn't allowed to display other emotions. Frankly, a character who is literally happy all the time is either a bad, one-dimensional character, or stuck in unhealthy coping mechanisms and is in desperate need of psychological help. I could see Metal Virus Amy being handled as the latter, but that's not what they went with. Secondly, these arguments often cite this cutscene from Unleashed, where Dark Gaia is released, but Amy still has hope in Sonic to save the day. The problem is that this scene is not equivalent to the Metal Virus. Here, all Amy sees is the sky going dark, and, crucially, as far as she knows, Sonic is in the villain's lair right now at full fighting capacity. Of course she's not worried. In this story, Amy is seeing people fall to the virus literally before her eyes, including Cream's mother, in operations she is personally leading, and she knows Sonic is struck with an ailment that impairs his ability to fight, is slowly killing him, and is keeping him unhealthily sleep-deprived. Amy is sad here because she deeply loves the world and its people, and is constantly witnessing harm to both that she and Sonic have limited capacity to stop. Amy is sad here because she deeply loves Sonic, and is watching him go through immense suffering that she also has limited capacity to stop. I think she's allowed to be sad. And if you want evidence that Amy is a hope-bringer in this arc, in issue 23, after Sonic, aforementionedly, I don't know if that's a real word, breaks the cure research, he comes so close to giving up we actually see him start to zombodify. He snaps out of it because he knows his friends are counting on him, and who's the first to call? Amy. And the background goes from cloudy to literal sunshine yellow as she does. Make of that what you will. But next issue, Amy also finds out that Sonic is slowly losing his immunity to the virus. One more thing to add to the pile of things trying to break her. Speaking of breaking, Amy is so done by this point, she's ready to straight up murder Eggman when he shows up. No one would blame her at this point. And speaking of done, look at these panels. No words from Amy, but Sonic going from his usual self to wheezing in severe pain is clearly affecting her. But no time to rest because she has to fight Zomom. Yeah, the Deadly Six are in this arc, but they're actually good, and that's another reason Metal Virus rules. Heck, the arc took Xena from one of my least favorite Sonic characters to someone I love to hate because she tortures Cream. But hey, it's a kid's comic, she'll be fine. Oh. So let's do a quick tally here. Over the course of this arc, Amy has had her dream job turn into a soul-crushing nightmare, had the one she loves infected and forced to go several days without sleep, taken charge of evacuations during a zombie apocalypse, saw her HQ fall, lost her surrogate sister's mother, lost her surrogate sister, and she's still fighting, still keeping it together for the sake of the world. And now, the final battle. Amy's part in this isn't huge, but it is hugely significant. Eggman, who is working with them now because he's their only hope for a cure, is cornered by a zombotified Big the Cat, Amy's Sonic Heroes comrade. She charges in with her hammer. This is the man responsible for all of this suffering, and when it came down to it, Amy was still willing to save him. And how does he repay that? By pushing her into the Zombot Big. So, let's think about this for a moment. Had the others not saved the day, this would have been the end of Amy. Killed by her own kindness backfiring. If that's not a metaphor for this whole arc, I don't know what is. But that's obviously not what happened. Obviously, Sonic saved the day. Obviously, Amy's nightmare is over. Oh right, Sonic just exploded in a space-time rift. And the Deadly Six are still at large, and she's in charge of hunting them down, and getting all the refugees off Angel Island, which Eggman just escaped with the last shuttle, and repairing all the damage to the world after the literal zombie apocalypse. No pressure or anything! Again, we have her saying outright that she can't take much more. But this is the tragedy of Restoration leader Amy Rose. Even when the fighting is over, she can't rest. Restoration leader Amy Rose doesn't get to rest. Ever. Knuckles sums up her entire problem. Knuckles is the wisest Sonic character sometimes. Back at base, and a mountain of paperwork, Amy finally does some much needed introspection. Everything I've been getting at so far, it's all spelled out here. But the fact we could tell this was where her arc was going is a testament to the writing. As she realizes what she wanted all along wasn't a desk job, but to help people out in the field. Which, yeah, is an excuse to reinstate the status quo in time for new Sonic games, but for the first time, Amy has full confirmation the adventuring life is the life she wants. And fortunately, there's someone to help her get it. This is Jewel the Beetle, an original IDW character who's also great, check her stories out. What's important is, she used to be a museum curator, and so she's far more suited to a desk job than Amy Rose, the adventurer. Amy hands over her job to Jewel, Sonic comes back obviously, and they all live happily ever after. I mean, what are the odds 2 leaders of the Restoration go through horrible trauma that mentally breaks them? Oh. Being the leader of a global A group is hard. And putting Amy in that position takes her greatest strength, her boundless love, and twists it into her greatest weakness. When she has the power and responsibility to help everyone everywhere, every person's suffering weighs on her conscience. And that's before she can even consider the suffering her friends and loved ones are going through, or her own. To Restoration leader Amy, self-care would be selfish. It's something no other storyline has ever done for game canon Amy, and that's why it's special. There's been a surge of backlash to Amy's portrayal in the 2020s for admittedly not unfounded reasons. So I made this video to shout out a praiseworthy modern Amy story. Obviously, she still needs to show her sillier side in lower stakes moments, like later IDW and the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. But her arc in this story is a testament to the depth of her character and the depth of storytelling it allows when used to its full potential. That's why Metal Virus Amy is the best Amy.